Honestly, I think Pig should be nerfed. What? I mean, obviously I'm just kidding, but it seems to be a big meme since forever in the community. Piggy has been seen as a bad killer who's gotten the short end of the stick multiple times, especially when facing survivors on the stronger side. But if we take a look at her win rates that Behavior recently released, she seems to be in the top 6, and it is out of the 35 killers that are currently in the game. So if she has such high rates, why is everyone saying she's bad? And why did she just get a buff in the recent 7.6 update despite these crazy numbers? At the end of this video, you'll know exactly why she does so well. It also goes over everything you need to know about Pig's power, how you should be using them, and what perks and add-ons work best for her. Aside from being quite small, Pig is a pretty standard killer. Her terror radius being 32 meters and a movement speed of 115% when that of the survivors is 100%. Pig is able to crouch, during which her movement speed goes down to 90%, which is slower than a survivor. This often isn't that big of a deal as you won't really use this in chase. When she crouches, her red stain and terror radius disappear, making it perfect for approaching unwary survivors on a generator. Keep in mind though that your terror radius takes a few seconds to fade out, so crouch in advance if you can. If you do this a little too late, smart survivors will notice your heartbeat disappeared suddenly, letting them know that you didn't just walk away, but went into stealth mode. Gen grabs are by far the best use of her crouch ability. This is when you press M1 on a survivor that's currently working on a generator. The problem with this is though, you can normally M1 when you're crouched, as this activates her dash ability, so you need to stand up before you can grab someone off a gen. Standing up out of stealth takes exactly 1 second, while our terror radius doesn't come back until 1.5 seconds, so make use of this by uncrouching while still behind the corner, then grabbing them immediately after. This way they'll never know you're coming. Like I mentioned before, holding M1 for 0.75 seconds while crouched makes her roar, during which she briefly slows down before activating her ambush ability. This is a dash that lasts for 2.3 seconds, letting her run at 172 movement speed compared to her normal 115%, making her almost as fast as Spirit during her phasing, who runs as 176% movement speed, though for a way shorter amount of time. Due to her super loud roar, using the dash to catch survivors off guard is never really a good idea. Instead, if you snuck up on someone, just uncrouch and give them a slap or grab them. That said, this dash can be incredibly useful during a chase. I didn't think I'd ever say that. Her dash used to be very bad. Most of the time it wasn't even worth using, and you barely ever saw any pigs using it during a match. Fortunately, during the recent 7.6 patch, Behavior gave it some pretty nice buffs. Not only did they reduce her cooldown animation after the dash, it now also lasts longer, making it useful in more situations than it was before. You still shouldn't randomly throw it out though. It's often still better to just chase people and M1 them, but there are quite a few scenarios where the dash comes in handy. Ideally, if you're at a shorter loop where the pallet hasn't been thrown yet, you want to position yourself at the side with the pallet. Start crouching, look one way, charge your dash, and right before it starts, turn the other way and quickly dash at them. A lot of times you'll catch the survivor off guard as they won't know which way to run. If you don't do this, there's a chance they might run the opposite way and loop back around to the pallet before you can reach them. At shorter loops where the pallet is already down, you can still do the exact same thing, but instead of being on the side of the pallet, stand on the opposite side. This doesn't work against everyone, but if the survivor doesn't make the correct play, they'll end up at the wrong side of the pallet, letting you hit them. Smart survivors will know what you're doing though, and might attempt to leave the loop and run to the next one as soon as they see you crouch, knowing it slows you down. Ever since Piggy's dash got buffed, this isn't as big of an issue, as there will still be a lot of moments where you'll still be able to reach them before they make enough distance, especially if you're using the dash add-ons. If you know you're up against one of these smarter survivors, play mind games with them. Mix it up, go for a dash one time, then fake it the next. Start charging your dash so they hear the roar, then when they run away from the safety of the tile, stand back up and chase them normally. In a lot of cases, you'll be able to get a free hit on them. Aside from her honestly mediocre chase power, there's something else to her kit that is arguably the strength of the character, her reverse bear traps. And this, right here, her traps, is why Pig's win rate is so incredibly high. And let me explain why. Everything, and I mean everything in Dead by Daylight revolves around time. Of course, the objective of the survivors is to finish the 5 generators as quickly as possible and escape through the gates, or at least before everyone has been sacrificed. So, as a killer, you're trying to put people on hooks as fast as you can, or again, at least before the gates are opened. So ideally, you want as little survivors on generators at one time as possible. So, how do you do that? Most killers have no choice but to chase one person at a time, leaving the other 3 survivors free to do whatever they want unless they use perks. Pig, on the other hand, has these reverse bear traps. She starts with 4 of them at the start of the trial, after which she can choose to put one on the survivor after they're down on the ground. Initially, these are inactive and don't do anything, but as soon as the generator pops while survivor is wearing one of these pretty hats, it starts beeping, indicating that their timer is counting down. Survivors see this timer on their HUD, but the killer only sees the icon go from white to red. You can still see how close it is to popping by the speed at which the light on the trap blinks. From the moment a generator pops, a survivor has 150 seconds to get rid of their hat. The way they remove their traps is by searching for a key in one of these 5 jigsaw boxes that are scattered across the map. The logic behind finding the key might be a bit difficult to understand, but I'll try to explain the best I can. So in total, your 4 bear traps guarantee that 12 searches have to be done to remove them all. That means that if you manage to use all 4 of your traps, the survivors will collectively have to search 12 boxes in total to get all 4 of the hats off. This could mean that one of them has to search 1 box to find their key, while another has to search 3 boxes, while the other 2 need to search 4 boxes to free themselves, adding up to 12 searches in total. That said though, a survivor will never have to search more than 4 boxes, so the 4th will always be the one with the key if they get to that point. The trap's counter continuously counts down, during which its beeping gets faster, and if a survivor fails to find their key in time, it activates, instantly ending them. So, why do these traps make her win so much more than the memes on the internet will have you believe? Pig's reverse bear traps are one of the only powers in the game that let you keep a survivor busy for an extended period of time without having to personally chase them. This means that fewer people will be free to heal or progress generators. Where normal killers need to use perks to slow the game down and buy more time to hook more people, Piggy naturally does this with her traps. Keep in mind that this also means it is counterintuitive to chase down people that already have a trap on their head, as instead of keeping 2 people busy at the same time, you are now just occupying 1 person. Not only that, but the timer of the bear traps pauses as long as the survivor is in chase, on the ground, or on a hook, making chasing people with an active trap an even worse idea. A neat trick to get around this is by crouching, as you aren't able to chase while being crouched, but using this to harass only 1 survivor will often cause you to lose the game anyways. Sure, if you find someone out in the open or stumble upon someone trying to find a key, give them a little tap. A free down is a free down after all, but Pig's strength comes from keeping multiple people busy at the same time, so don't ever forget that. Now that we know what the strength of these traps are, I also want to mention that you shouldn't worry if your traps don't actively go off every match. Against really good players, they will rarely actually pop, but that is okay as their main purpose is just buying you as much time as possible while you sacrifice people on hooks. Another thing you should know is that survivors can't leave through the gates as long as they have an active trap on their head. If they're white and so inactive, they can walk out no problem, but if you attempt to leave with a red one, it will snap the moment they try.
He's gonna die.
He's dead.
The only way to escape the trial with an active trap on your head is by either removing it in time or escaping through the hatch, as this doesn't set off the trap. This means that if the gates are open and so the endgame collapse timer is running down, it is incredibly difficult for survivors to escape if they still have an active trap on their head. Moving on to her add-ons, it's pretty clear which ones are the best. Her eerie ones are almost never worth using. One of them gives everyone a head at the start, immediately removing all your pressure as you won't have any for the rest of the game. The other lets you see the aura of close survivors through walls as you crouch, but it takes away 2 traps. There's tons of perks that can help you with this instead. The one that reduces the timer is also pretty bad, as most of the time, if you're facing good players, you won't be killing anyone with the traps anyways, meaning this won't buy you any time. If you actually want to buy time, use these instead. They make survivors take longer when searching the boxes and are by far our most useful add-ons in my opinion, alongside our 2 dash add-ons. These let you charge your dash faster and make it faster, and so letting you cross more distance, making it more useful trying to ambush survivors at tiles. The ones that give you extra traps can also be very handy, though the ones that apply status effects to trapped survivors aren't that great because a lot of the time you won't be chasing them anyways. As for perks, there are several builds that can work really well on Piggy. Firstly, you could make use of the fact that she keeps survivors busy. Instead of one person being in chase, she can keep multiple people occupied at once. This means that because they already have so much on their hands, adding even more to it can quickly become overwhelming. Perks like Plaything and Devour Hope are basically second objectives they need to complete, or third or fourth objectives if you count the bear traps and both perks at the same time. Pinhead's Plaything lights a totem the moment someone gets hooked, and removes that survivor's ability to hear your heartbeat until they destroy it. Hag's Devour Hope counts how many people are unhooked. After the 3rd unhook, you can start insta-downing people. After the 5th, you can yeet people from the game by moriing them. You can see why this quickly becomes a must-do objective on top of gens and traps, buying you even more time. Aside from perks that add another objective, generator slowdown perks have always been the best, period. But for Pig, because she naturally buys so much time, they are even better. Artist's Pain Resonance, which removes 25% of a generator every time you hook someone for the first time, can really buy you a lot of extra time. Demogorgon Surge is also really good, removing 8% and regressing nearby gens when you down someone, preventing you from having to manually kick all generators. If you don't have any of these perks yet, there's a free perk that works pretty well on Pig called Whispers. It lights up whenever a survivor is within 32 meters of you. When it lights up, start crouching, approach the gen you think they're on, and a lot of times you'll catch people off guard. Spies from the shadows can also do this really well, as it'll show you where survivors are based on the crows that fly up. If you're already crouched, survivors won't know you're coming and you'll know exactly where they are. Her own perk, Surveillance, can also be pretty nice at showing you where people are by lighting up the gen aura of a generator that has stopped regressing, letting you sneak up on them easier. Then Sloppy Butcher is also a pretty good pick, as it slows down heals, adding into her already good slowdown. Last, but definitely not least, there's one perk that I personally love using on Pig, but is admittedly incredibly frustrating for the survivors that have to face it. Knight's perk, Face the Darkness, lights a totem the moment you injure someone, and for as long as that person remains injured, or until you down them, other survivors will start screaming every 25 seconds as long as they aren't in your terror radius, which you don't have whenever you're crouching. Not only will you see where people are because of their screams, these screams also interrupt their box searches, making them have to start over every time. Alright, so because you have made it this far into the video, I'll show you a secret strategy that lets you win against a Pig player 100% of the time. Okay, pay attention, right? So whenever you start a trial and you notice you're up against a Pig, you need to stop moving. Crouch down with her and let her approach you slowly. You then want to very carefully, softly boop her snoot by pressing the emote button. If you do this correctly, she will growl and you'll become her pet. It is literally illegal for a Pig to hurt you from that point on, so congratulations with your free escape. As you could see earlier during the video, there are certain perks that work really well in Pig, but a lot of them came from other killers. It can be a little bit confusing to figure out which perks you should go for first, and that's why I made a video going over what killers are useful to get, so you always have some perks you can slap on everyone. If you want to know which those are, then be sure to check out the video in the end card. And as always, have a wonderful day.